You are listening to the Techie Leadership Show with Bogdan and Andrei.
Hello and welcome to the Techie Leadership Show. Today with me I have Brian Martynowicz. He is VSI's Director of Customer Services. He is responsible for ensuring operational excellence in supporting and implementing VSI solutions within customer environments. Having worked in IT consulting for the last 16 years, he loves to share field engineering expertise and customer services management expertise with others. In his free time, you will find him blogging or producing vlogs for LinkedIn. And also he is writing and he has written content that is syndicated on Citrixology. Hi, Brian.
Hi, Andrei. Thanks for having me. I'm great.
See, it's a pleasure having you on the show. And I cannot wait to find out some stories from you. I'm really excited about that.
Me too.
Okay. Do you want to add anything else about yourself?
No, not necessarily. I think you gave a good primer on it. Looking forward to really sharing some stories here with the audience. Hopefully they're interesting.
Okay, let's get to it. So what would be the biggest leadership success story you've witnessed personally?
So I really kind of been racking my brain about this for the last couple of days because it's very interesting. It's a very interesting question. I'll be transparent here. My experience in a leadership position is relatively new and limited, but I fortunately have and unfortunately had the experience of witnessing both a successful and unsuccessful leadership situation. So as far as largest leadership success stories that I personally witnessed, I would say working at Login VSI. And the reason why I'd say that is because it's so very fresh in my mind that I can describe it with quite vivid details.
Please do.
Yeah, so I started with the company 4 years ago, and I came in as a support engineer. They told me that they were building out an operations on the West Coast and that they needed additional hands-on. I had experience in the consultancy industry at the time, and so I kind of recognized the market value of the product and decided to join a relatively unknown company in the United States, leave my position where I was lined up as a director role there, and step back into an engineering position. So that actually will lead into my next story about the failures that I've
Let's
seen.
Let's keep it a little.
Right. I'm not going to name any names necessarily here, but I will give you some of the details of that. And anyway, so they're building out the operation, the sales team scales, the company gets up to around 90 employees, and come to find out there was some leadership issues in the United States. And unfortunately, there are staff turnover things that happen in these type of situations, right? Sometimes people kind of bite off larger than they can chew, and you're hiring so fast that you're not necessarily grabbing the best candidates. And so we kind of had a misstep. And that misstep actually became quite the opportunity for us because we were fortunate enough to be in conversations with a guy named Richard Scannell, who is our current general manager of operations here within Login VSI. And his pedigree, just to kind of explain his background, is he's pretty well known in the software industry. He's been kind of beating around in the Boston area for quite some time. He's got a great story. You might want to interview him.
I would love to do it.
In any event, so he ran a company called Glasshouse, and they were a pretty significant company. They had venture capital investment, all of that, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of revenue. And so he also was kind of poking around at Login VSI and saw it as an opportunity. So he came on board, and that was about 3 years ago. And so past that point in time, I've gotten the opportunity to move and uproot my life from Baltimore to Boston, which has been a new experience for me. And also just literally physically sit in an office next door to him and kind of soak up all of the details that I can, which has really been an accelerator in my career. So I think a lot of the lessons that I'm learning as our company continues to grow, I'm going to be able to take forward with me into to future opportunities. So that's my my leadership success story. I'm happy to give you any of the nitty-gritty details. I know we are kind of time capped here, but if that's interesting to you.
Yeah, it sure is. So how is it working like with a really good leader and that's helping you progress and learn so much?
Yeah, so I mean, you know, you have someone with experience that can point out things to you because of that experience that you might not be able to kind of step outside of yourself with, right? They're like, oh, you're having an emotional response to that. And in the moment, you're just like, I'm angry. And then they kind of help you like step back from that and develop like techniques and strategies, or, you know, you get anxiety because you're in new situations. And when you're there with someone that has experience, they can be like, look, it's going to be okay. Like, our business is at a point where we could run this on the back of a napkin. Like, Richard has literally said that to me. And it's crazy to think about because of the size and scale of Login VSI. But at that point in time when he came in, he was absolutely right. And I'm stressed out about how we're going to make it happen. And that kind of calm, it kind of sets the pace for the entirety of the company, right?
Yeah, that sounds really, really good. Like having a superior or a leader that has a calming effect and actually points out to you like you're reacting emotionally to this situation. Take a step backwards and come back being more professional. And this is business. It's not, let's say, something more dramatic like family life.
Exactly. So then the last thing that I'll say about it too is like a good leader gives the people under them the freedom to be successful, right? And gives them the tools, right? So I hope that I can also pass that on to my team, you know.
And it's great to hear that Richard helped you like grow and become more successful in your role. And
yeah, I'm quite grateful for it.
Amazing. And you teased us a little with a tidbit about the biggest leadership fail story. So
this isn't my first rodeo, Andrei. Yeah, so if you want to dive right into it, so it's actually the reason why I ended up in Login VSI in the first place. So I work for a small consultancy company in Baltimore. 7 of us doing about $2 million worth of business. So for 7 people, that's not too bad. You know, services businesses run thin margins, but we were growing nonetheless. And so the owner of the business was quite difficult. I mean, you could talk to any of the employees about it. And typically, you know, they have that adage, like, employees don't leave businesses, they leave bosses, right?
Yes.
But the way that I looked at it was, this is a challenge, right? This guy is hard. Like, he's difficult.
Mm-hmm.
I can do this. This is fine. This isn't a problem. And so, like, during that period of time, I really kind of honed my skill set, right? Like, just became surgical with my like troubleshooting ability, documentation, like risk mitigation, project management. And I really like kind of came up to his like secondhand man role, right? But there were just some things like he was incapable of kind of letting go of control of absolutely every single aspect of the business. And as a result, you kind of stop growing, right? You hit a threshold there. So I was looking at leaving. He had said to me in confidence, look, you know, there's an NDA in place. I can't tell you, but there's some things that are happening in the background that are really going to be compelling, and you're going to be involved in that, right? So me being the person that I am, excited, like, let's go, let's take this to the next level. So come to find out, I actually had a job opportunity with a company called Expedient, which is a mid-market data center provider. They're really doing some impressive stuff too, if you've ever heard of them before. They're all the major trade shows. But anyway, I was going to go take a step and become a project manager there, which was going to be a huge leap in my career. I said no. I literally had a written offer in my hand. I said no. I said I'm going to go back and work for this company again. And so I told him, I ripped up the offer letter. Let's go. Tell me what's going on. And he said, we're getting ready to merge with a larger business, right? He said, this is about a $10 million business. Bigger opportunities, bigger processes, bigger office, more perks, more exciting things, you know, more influence. You're part of this vision, right?
Yes.
So on to the failure part of things, right? The failure part of things is fast forward about a year later and all 7 of us have gone, right? Now ask me some questions about that.
Why? Why did all of you went away?
I mean, there are a variety of different reasons, right? Like people's voices become marginalized, like they're lied to, they're misled, like the customers, look, like everyone's in business to make some money, right? But there's a difference between taking money and taking advantage of people, right? So they were taking advantage of customers. It became quite clear that this was not a merger. This was a purchase of the assets, the customer base of this company. And this company, by the way, is well known for doing this. And I'm not going to name any names because I don't want to throw any dirt, but if you look at their glass house or glass door reviews, it will be quite clear and apparent that I am not the lone voice. And you know, there's a variety of reasons, but all 7 people who helped grow this business, which led to the owner selling the business and making lots of money, ended up going to other places, and all of them are successful in their own element. So, you know, what precipitates where you kind of put those blinders on and lead into that scenario. But I would say that was the biggest leadership failure that I've ever witnessed.
And as you said, like the owner itself, he wasn't like a person that was so pleasant to work with. And I like your mentality, like, okay, it's harder to work in this environment, but I take it like as a learning experience. Double down on it and work and grow, because it will put some pressure on me, and it's a healthy pressure. But if after doing all that stuff, and I guess it wasn't just you, it was also the rest of your colleagues, when the business got bought.
We became 7 people working together to grow something. You become like a family, you know, like we lunch together every day. I mean, we would go and see each other's kids, and we had Christmas parties. Like, we're talking a very tight-knit group of people that were just completely like marginalized and disappointed, and literally had personal connections that were damaged as a result of this. It was unbelievable. But fortunately, I was able to land on my feet at Login BSI as a result. But yeah, I think it's a very interesting scenario.
No, and when you have like a team, as you said, like each of your colleagues went on and became even more successful afterwards, it means it wasn't them, it was the company itself. And the company should look, if I'm losing star employees all the time, there's something wrong here.
They didn't care. They didn't look at it as a failure in leadership. They just looked at it as malcontent employees, like that. I don't know, and literally like shouting at people and physical interactions. It was just like completely inappropriate. And so the thing is, what it really taught me is like, do your due diligence, right? Like, find out what you're getting yourself into, and also like take care of your team. Like, take care of them. They are the ones that are doing the hard work, really.
And they should be like a part of your family, extended family, but still a part of your family. But don't tell me that company is still growing.
I don't know. I don't follow up. I know that they churn through employees. I know that their Glassdoor reviews are largely negative. I know that they ran a PR campaign where they responded to every single negative post and said, we're doing leadership courses to learn how to fix this problem. But the problem was so apparent, you know, which kind of indicates that they learned nothing in seeing all of these people walk away. It's all for show, like.
And based on all your experiences until now, good and bad, what would be your leadership philosophy?
So, leadership philosophy, I would say, like, treat everyone fairly. Right? Like, we're all human beings. We're here, we're working because we have to a large degree, right? A lot of us are really lucky in that we get to do what we love, but some of us are here because we have to. And so, like, don't take the human element out of things, right?
Yes.
Process things before you make decisions. Like, I can't tell you the amount of times where I've just been like, oh, I'm so clear that this is what happened. And then I just dig and I dig and I dig, and then my perspective is a whole 180, right? So never just assume that the way that you look at something the first time is the ultimate way that things kind of transpired. And then, like, stay a step ahead, right? Like if you are literally leading the charge, like you need to have an eye out over the horizon. You need to be investigating ways to compel and move your teams forward and move your business forward.
That's really good. And I like especially the second step about processing things and getting all the pieces of information, because sometimes in a team of 4, 3 people can come and say something, and then you don't get the full picture because the fourth has like a missing piece, and when you find out, it's already too late. You made some decisions that you might regret afterwards. That's why it's important to communicate and find out everything as much as possible, and then take a solid based on decision.
And Andrei, that's such a great point, right? Like a lot of times the way that we interpret something, the first pass is the way that we like emotionally respond to it, right? Like
yes.
The first time we look at it, we might be like, oh my God, like I can't believe that person would do that, right? But then you're like,
yes.
Okay, well, what happened? Let me step back. Let me walk back the steps, right? And you find out, you're like, oh my God, like I missed this whole entire thing. And if I had just been like, you're an idiot, you did this wrong, like
no.
you can't take that back, you know?
Exactly, and it ruins relationship. It's hard to build them, and you can waste them in a couple of seconds, and you have to restart rebuilding it all.
You're right.
Yeah. And for aspiring leaders, what would be your top 3 leadership tips you have for them?
Yeah, absolutely. So take notes, right? Like what I've noticed is that like as I've kind of moved up, like the volume of things that I'm involved with increases, right? So details get lost very quickly, right? So take notes and make sure that you follow up on things. You control the outcome, right? Good or bad. If the outcome's bad, you're still as responsible for it, right? It doesn't matter who's to blame, but it warrants looking into, right? And then lastly, like find a mentor, right? Like my career, I'm 33 years old, has been drastically accelerated by the fact that I've surrounded myself. I've been fortunate enough to find and surround myself with the right people. So find someone that takes an interest in you and is in what you are passionate about, and it will accelerate your career in ways that you never imagined before.
Oh yeah, the last tip, like for anybody listening here, finding a mentor is really important. Even if you're super shy, just go and find a person that personally you can relate to, and it has a style that you can emulate, and it's easy to pick up stuff from that person. And my first mentor, Harvey Brody, he helped me like a lot in business and in mindset.
Richard Scannell.
So his name is
Richard Scannell.
Richard Scannell. See, and just reach out to them. People want to help you out. That's something I found out by talking with them. It's not a big thing.
Well, you know what? Also, like me being in the position that I'm in now, like I have an acute interest in finding other people like me and helping them too. So like I'm on the career advice sign up for LinkedIn, so you can find me on there if you want to ask me questions about how I got to where I was. There's actually web apps now. I'm on this thing called Get-a-Peek. I don't know how to say it actually, but like you can sign up for mentor profiles and people can actually book some of my time to talk about things. So I'm just saying, like, people in that position are interested in finding you as well. So like you said, Andrei, don't be shy. Like
exactly. And Brian has like a really generous offer here. If you're looking for a mentor, reach out to Brian, and if you jive together, because it's important to have in common interest.
Exactly.
It's not just professional. It goes mentoring experience goes beyond professional. It's personal. You become like a sort of family actually when you go through the process. So it's really intense in a way. Well, Brian, we're at the question that I like the most, which is, what is the book that had the most profound impact on you?
So maybe I'm going to sound uneducated here, but I don't know that books have the greatest profound effect on me, honestly. I mean, I learn stuff through them. Like I'm learning a book right now. It's called Guns, Germs, and Steel. It won a Pulitzer.
Yeah.
It's a compression of the human history of man within 500 pages. It's quite fascinating. But what I was going to say, and I thought about this, the thing that's had the largest impact on me recently is I'm actually taking a course on Coursera called The Science of Happiness. It's a Yale course. I don't remember the name of the instructor, but basically I'm a data kind of person, right? Like that's,
yes.
I live my life on data. And so the concept is this, that now in the course of history, we have more data on what makes someone happy than we've ever had before. There's been studies, blah, blah, blah. So basically what she does is she takes all of the data and she comes up with these conclusions, and she creates a scientific experiment that you participate in during the course of the class to see whether or not by doing the things that she specifies, you can become a happier person. And the conclusion largely is by yes, you can. And I think that this is quite interesting because if we had a happier society generally, and I tell people about this, right, then I think that as a whole, as a society, we kind of rise up. And so I don't have a favorite book that's influenced me, but hopefully that kind of is interesting.
But the course sounds really cool. I will have to check it out now. Sounds really
good. Is.
And Brian, if people want to find out more about you, where should they go?
The same place everyone should go, LinkedIn, right? Business cards are obsolete. You can't reach out and touch someone through their business card. You can't update it. You can't change companies. You can't get updates about interesting and compelling events. So find me on LinkedIn, Brian Martynowicz. I'm at Login BSI, lots of connections. So I should be quite easy to find with my unique last name.
Yes, do reach out to Brian, and I'm sure you're going to learn lots of interesting stuff. And it's been a pleasure having you on the show, Brian.
It's been absolutely my pleasure, Andrei.
Okay, bye.
That was today's episode. Tune in daily. Rate, like, subscribe, and share, please. Oh, you can find further info and materials in the show notes on techyleadership.com, including links to the guest book recommendations.